Tensions between the United States and Canada escalated sharply today after President Donald Trump issued a stern warning that could reshape North American trade relations and send shockwaves through global markets. The president signaled that if Canada proceeds with any major economic agreement involving China, the United States would respond with sweeping and immediate penalties. In a strongly worded statement, President Trump made it clear that Washington would not tolerate what it sees as a strategic backdoor for Chinese goods and influence into North America. He warned that any such arrangement would trigger a massive response from the United States, including a proposed 100% tariff on all Canadian goods and products entering the U.S. market. The warning comes amid growing geopolitical tensions over the Arctic region and renewed discussions surrounding Greenland's strategic importance. Canada has recently appeared to oppose U.S. ambitions regarding Greenland, a territory long viewed by American military planners as critical to future Arctic defense and global security infrastructure. According to senior U.S. officials, the administration views Greenland not merely as a land acquisition or economic opportunity, but as a cornerstone of future national defense planning, particularly as missile defense systems and Arctic security become more central to U.S. strategy. Supporters of the president argue that this is not a new idea. They point out that the United States has considered acquiring Greenland since the 19th century. In 1867, when the U.S. purchased Alaska, American leaders also explored the possibility of purchasing Greenland. The idea resurfaced again during the Truman administration in the aftermath of World War II, when the strategic importance of the Arctic became increasingly clear. Now, with rising competition from China and Russia in polar regions, the administration believes the stakes are higher than ever. Former senior officials close to the president say the current strategy is rooted in national security rather than simple economic leverage. They argue that allowing Chinese goods or influence to move more freely through Canada into the U.S. would represent a serious vulnerability in America's trade and security architecture. From the White House perspective, tariffs are not merely a trade weapon, but a defensive tool. The administration sees them as a way to force allies and rivals alike to take U.S. security concerns seriously. This approach reflects President Trump's broader governing style, which blends business negotiation tactics with geopolitical strategy. Those who have observed him in high-level international forums describe a negotiating method that begins with maximal demands, applies pressure, and then settles at a point that still strongly favors U.S. interests. That style was on full display recently at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where President Trump once again commanded the global stage. According to officials present at the meetings, the president dominated discussions not only on trade, but also on defense, NATO funding, Ukraine, and the future of Arctic security. World leaders reportedly watched closely as Trump engaged in a series of intense discussions, often using tariffs as both leverage and warning. In some cases, he raised proposed tariffs sharply before later settling on lower, but still significant, levels, demonstrating a calculated strategy rather than impulsive decision-making. Supporters inside the administration say this is precisely why the president remains such a formidable negotiator on the world stage. They argue that his background in business gives him an instinctive understanding of leverage, pressure, and timing, skills they believe many traditional politicians lack. The Greenland issue, in particular, is being framed as a long-term strategic investment. Military planners see the island as a key location for early warning systems, missile defense infrastructure, and Arctic surveillance as global powers increasingly turn their attention northward. Comparisons are frequently made to Alaska, which was once dismissed by critics as a useless frozen territory. Today, Alaska is recognized as one of the most strategically vital regions in the United States, playing a central role in missile defense, Arctic operations, and energy security. Advocates of the Greenland strategy argue that history is repeating itself. At the same time, the administration continues to push NATO allies to increase their defense commitments. While tensions have existed in the past, U.S. officials acknowledge that many NATO countries have begun to step up their military spending and contributions. They point to past joint operations, including in Afghanistan, where Allied forces fought and sacrificed alongside American troops, as proof that the alliance remains vital, though in need of continued reform and strengthening. In Washington, the broader view is that all these issues, trade, tariffs, Greenland, NATO, Ukraine, and China, are interconnected parts of a single strategic vision. That vision aims to reduce U.S. vulnerability, strengthen its global position, and prevent rival powers from gaining strategic footholds in critical regions. Critics, especially in European and Canadian media, have suggested that some U.S. allies are beginning to push back against Washington's pressure tactics. However, supporters of the president dismiss this interpretation, arguing that what looks like confrontation is often simply the opening phase of negotiation. They insist that President Trump's method is to aim high, apply pressure, and then secure outcomes that serve long-term American interests. As the situation continues to develop, markets, diplomats, and governments around the world are watching closely. If Canada moves forward with deeper economic ties to China, the consequences could be immediate and severe. And if the Greenland strategy advances, it could mark one of the most significant geopolitical shifts in the Arctic since the Cold War. What is clear is that the administration is signaling it will not hesitate to use economic power, diplomatic pressure, and strategic positioning to shape the global order according to what it sees as America's national interest. The coming weeks may determine whether this latest confrontation becomes another hard-fought negotiation, or the beginning of a new and far more serious trade and geopolitical conflict.